Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another office hours for FastStore. My name is Victor Miranda. No, just kidding. It's not Victor today. He's busy sharing his knowledge elsewhere in our Hard Coders initiative. So you're stuck with me, George Bendero. Hopefully, I'll be able to fill in for his shoes today. Okay, so let's get started. The first section of our office hours is always the announcement section. This is where you get the latest, greatest news about FastStore and other related products. And for today, I'm calling Juliana Meyer to talk about our redesigned admin with web page performance. Hey, Ju, how's it going?
Hello, George. I'm extremely excited today because we have some cool news to share with our audience. Um, and I know our FastStore developers don't usually access the VTEX admin, but I promise that this news might be very useful for your day to day. So basically, VTEX has partnered with Google to create a new app for the VTEX admin that allows you to track a store's core web vitals through the VTEX admin itself. So previously, if you wanted to assess your store's website's performance, you had to access PageSpeed Insights or Lighthouse and add single URLs on Google's interface. But now you don't have to leave your VTEX admin to track the website's performance. And you can also add multiple URLs to be always tracked at once. So this is a cool twist that our app brings. And also a cool fun fact is that VTEX is the only platform where this happens. It's Google's first partnership for building an app that uses PageSpeed Insights or Lighthouse to track multiple URLs. So that's a cool fun fact for VTEX as well. And it includes all the features present in PageSpeed Insights and Lighthouse, but in VTEX Admin. And just a small disclaimer, this is only present in stores that have migrated to our redesigned VTEX Admin. So if you're using our previous VTEX Admin, this feature won't be available only for stores who have migrated their accounts to our new VTEX Admin interface. So if you don't have the new redesigned VTEX admin, you can ask your account sponsor to migrate it for you. And we can add in the chat here, yeah,
Yeah, we've done it
the link
already.
for that. Oh, perfect. Thanks, George. But
Awesome.
that's it.
So it sounds like developers that are already used to looking at the results for performance inside GitHub now have a way to show their business counterparts that look at the admin like, hey, look at how much this website improved because of my work. That's good for everyone, right? And they can the business users can keep track of how it's improving, how it's going, right? Great
Very
news.
true. And also, we have developed documentation for the business user to understand what page speed insights, or in our case, web page performance, which is the name of the admin app, is, and why should they be interested in tracking a website's performance. So, this content might also help developers who are trying to partner with their business people in the store to bring more resources into tracking web pages performance. So
Nice.
that's another resource for you guys.
Just a quick question. Is this something that you already told us that it's only for the redesigned admin, right? The one that's not that pink, it's a little bit more blue.
Yeah.
But is this just something for stores that are running FastStore, or any store can track their web performance?
Great question. So any store that can track web page performance. So basically, any store that uses Store Framework or even our legacy CMS. And what changes is the amount of things you can change in your store's codes to improve the web page performance. But all stores can use web page performance to track their performance.
Nice.
That
One
sounded a bit
one less
repetitive.
tool to visit. Like you don't have to
Yeah,
go into
yeah.
um, some Google page. You can track everything inside the admin. Great news. Thanks, Juliana, for the news.
See you.
See you.
Bye bye.
All right, so let's keep going. Quick reminder for this section, You'll always get the latest and greatest news at faststore.dev/releases. This particular one isn't there because it's an admin related release, but we thought it would be useful anyway. Stay tuned. I think next week we'll have release notes published, but since this is now a bi-weekly event, you'll read that before there. So make sure that you're following it. Okay, so let's move on to the next session. It's Ask the Community. Yes, you know it. You ask the questions, we answer them, and we're always really happy to help you guys navigate FastStore and all related technologies. I'll get started with the first question, which was made by Jorge MC Lima. Thanks, Jorge. You're almost my name buddy. So nice to see you here in VTEX Community. He asked this in Portuguese, so I'll just quickly interpret it for you guys who don't speak Portuguese. He's asking, how can I use Graphql to test my queries in FastStore? So he's using Gatsby.store as a starter. And way back when, in the past, you were able to go into Graphql that's provided by Gatsby and do some query like this and get a result. But lately it's not working, and he's getting some kind of error like cannot read properties of undefined, reading commerce or reading search or some kind of context related to VTEX. So he's able to do that for the Gatsby queries, but not for the VTEX queries, and he was wondering why. And what I found out is that we recently made some changes so that we could use FastStore both in Gatsby and in Next.js. And these changes included not adding the context in the same way there for Gatsby. So Gatsby doesn't have an API to pass the so-called context factory to its implementation of GraphQL. So that leaves a gap in how we can use the native Graphql app to test queries in Gatsby. But there's a way to solve this. It's quick and easy. The first way I suggested that they could solve this issue is by using a playground like Graphql Playground. So initially, the way I solved it was cloning the repository. I didn't really know how to install it, but I just went right away from source. I ran yarn so I could build the whole thing and bring in the dependencies. Yarn start, and then yarn develop on my store repository, and then I'd add the link that's provided by my FastStore repository to the GraphQL Playground UI. So something like this. So in one of the terminals here, I went into VTEX sites, Gatsby store. I ran yarn develop. After, of course, I ran yarn earlier, so I have all my dependencies there. And once this is ready, this is what he was trying to access, and it's not working as expected. But our build provides this URL here, the localhost 8000-API-GraphQL, which I can then use in this thing, localhost 3000 v2 new. This is running here because I went ahead and ran yarn start inside the repository I cloned, just like I described here. So yeah, you could probably Google Translate if you want. You can translate my answer. It'll probably be really close to what you expect if you're watching this in English. Let me not translate this anymore. I think I can't do that right now, but I'll figure it out later. Anyway, you go to the GraphQL Playground running locally. If you say use endpoint, this nice UI that's different from GraphQL, but it's pretty similar, shows up. And then I can run this query. It'll work just fine. Hopefully, yeah, it ran just fine. The same query, if I ran into the native GraphQL for Gatsby, won't work. So let me just replicate this so you guys get the sense of how this is working. So if I do this, this is the same error he's getting. not to worry. It's just the way Graphql is getting the context that's required. Okay, and of course, later I found out there's a better way. There's another alternative, a GraphQL Playground that runs online. You don't have to install anything. So a little less time. You just need to follow steps 5 and 6 described above. So you run yarn develop in the repository store, on the store repository, and then add this here. So I can just add this here, press enter, I think. Let me try that again. Not that. Yeah, then use endpoint works the same pretty much. I can copy paste my query. Yeah, so it's the same thing. It's just running on the server on the internet. Saves you some time, right? You can run there anywhere. So that's the first question for how to use Graphql to test FastStore API queries. You can't, but you can use something that's pretty similar. Hope that helped, Georgie. Thanks for your question. Now let's move on to the second question, which was made by a VTEX Community MVP, Larissa. Thanks for your questions. They're always helping us and everyone else who reads them, and they're very useful for our office hours. Thanks again for participating. So what Larissa was asking is she's implementing reviews inside her FastStore store. And this is an app that we have that's available for Store Framework. It's called Reviews and Ratings. You can install it through the App Store. Let me open it here real quick. I think it's like this. Let me see if I'm right. Yep, that's it. No, that's not it. I'll find it real quick. So it's an app that you can install. And we actually had an office hours in our global office hours where Brian Talma, one of the software developers who built that app, goes through everything that's related to it, how it works, how it's built. It's an open source app. Okay, let me. For some reason, it wasn't working for me as I expected, but let's see, reviews. There you go, reviews and ratings. So you can install this app in your store, and it'll work kind of like this is working right there. I think it's a inception moment where we use reviews and ratings in the reviews and ratings app page. You'll get the star rating and you get the comments. So that's why it's reviews and ratings. The ratings are the stars and the reviews are the comments. And you can get to manage those reviews inside your store and all that good stuff. It's compatible with any VTEX store. Here, when we say any VTEX store in the App Store, we mean legacy CMS, store framework. Don't have anything ready for FastStore, but that's what Larissa is working on. So she has a working backend. Let me open it right here. I got access to her store. And these are all just test ratings, so it's fine. She did some test ratings and she's trying to fetch them via API. We have the API available in our developer portal. So she was trying to add those to her front end. And yeah, so how could she go about doing it? She had an issue where she read our documentation, so get a list of reviews. And this get a list of reviews API documentation says that we have a few query parameters. So we have the search term, we have from and to do pagination, order by, so we can sort, status, so we can filter approved and not approved ratings, and we can even filter by product IDs. That's how we show the reviews that are related to specific product. Looks simple enough, right? But yeah, she had a few issues. That's normal. Sometimes we read through the documentation a little bit too fast. So she told us what she did. She has these reviews and ratings that she shared with us, and I showed you. And when she does a request in Postman, she's getting an empty result. So she gets a response. It's a 200, okay, but it has no data. So she's wondering, hey, what am I doing wrong, right? And I went ahead and looked through the URL she was doing a GET request to. And of course, this is her VTEX account and the URI that we mentioned here. One point that I noticed was different was vtexcommercetable.com.br, which is our regular path. If she did use that, she would have to add IO, so vtexcommercetable.com.br -IO -API -reviews and ratings API. So that's because reviews and ratings is an IO app and how things work in our environments. But she was smarter than I was. She went ahead and used myvtex.com, which doesn't require that. That's awesome. But then I went ahead and looked through the parameters she shared. And I noticed she said search term is product ID, from is 0, to is 2, order by is ASC, status is true, product is 1. So I went ahead to Postman and I did exactly what she did and I got the same results. Not surprising, right? But my friend Leticia, who is in the backstage here, and she's a really smart software engineer and very attentive, she said, like, why is search term product ID? That doesn't make sense to me. Search term should be a search term, right? Whatever you put in a search box. And she was right. So going back to the documentation, we read through here, and sometimes these are things that get lost in translation, right? You speak Portuguese, you're reading something in English, or vice versa. You don't quite understand it. So what we're saying here is that the search term will look into these fields: product ID, SKU, shopper ID, reviewer name. So the word you add here needs to be seen in one of those. You don't necessarily have to add these specific words. Well, so you're not selecting where to look. It's not like a search field. It's a search term. So what are you looking for, right? Let's say, for instance, I'm looking for Bernardo Neves at vtex.com.br. So that's my friend Bernardo. Hey, Bernardo, how's it going? Hope you're watching. So I'm going to look for just his reviews. How do I do that? Instead of adding product ID, I need to add his email. And I know it's going to work because the documentation says it looks into shopper ID. Is shopper ID what I'm looking at? I don't know. Let's see. Now I'm not so sure it will work, but we'll see. Yeah, it's not working. So instead of that, I'll just add a word I saw everywhere, teste, which means testing, right? And now I'm not getting a proper result. Is it? Yeah. So there's no teste, there's testando. Oh, there's in the actual content, right? Am I looking? Does it filter by content? No, just by product ID, SKU, shopper ID. I don't know what shopper ID is. Reviewer name. Okay, I'll add Laddie. Let's see if that works. Laddie is your name. All right, yeah, so that worked. Great. So when I filter by this, I can see that product ID doesn't have Laddie. Shopper ID doesn't have Laddie. Shopper ID should have seen Bernardo because he's here. But I guess the status wasn't true for his. That's why it didn't work. If I remove all of these, I should get a list of all reviews from everything. I'm not filtering the product, not filtering the status. Let's see. So these are all reviews. Okay. So this is the first one. This is the second one. This is the third one. Yeah, I got 3. Did I still have search term lighted, that's why I didn't get all of them. So Bernardo Neves is here. The thing is, his product ID wasn't one, right? So yeah, that's the thing. You always need to be really attentive to every single detail. Sometimes it's a really small thing they miss, and you don't get the result you want. So, Ladis, I'm going to write you the answer, but it's pretty much it. Make sure that search term is something that's included in one of those fields. And if you want to see all of them, you can remove all query parameters. You're going to see, just like I did here, all of your reviews. There's a total of 9, and I'm seeing 0 to 3 here. I guess I can paginate here. I'm going to have to look through this. But yeah, that's my answer for this one. Thanks, Laddie, for your question. And it's back to our slides, because I'm going to call my friend Felipe Lima to answer this other question by Laddie, our MVP. Hey, Felipe, how's it going?
Hello, George. How are you?
Pretty good. So
Hi,
what's
everyone. Larissa, can you please share my screen? I got the same question. So I took your tip and translated the page to English.
Okay.
So we have here this question from Larissa again. Thank you, Larissa, for all the questions. She was having some trouble trying to implement the sitemap on her store. She's using Gatsby, and she was giving these instructions on how to implement the sitemap. And first, I'd like to say that there is a plugin for Gatsby that helps with building the sitemap. It's called Gatsby plugin sitemap. You just need to npm or yarn install it in your store, and then you can include it in the Gatsby config file. But ideally, you will want to tweak it, the configurations for this plugin, because the automatic sitemap that it generates is not really helpful. It generates, like, it gets the pages, but it has some attributes in the XML that is not really useful for crawlers like Google. So they mention here, it's important that you read this documentation because they mention these caveats. So they mention that there are some fields that are not used and that you should replace them for something like this attribute here, less modified, will tell when that page was less modified. So it's important that you read this documentation, and also the options, because you will need them to configure the sitemap to get it working properly. So there are a lot of options here, but it's easier if you can see this example here of the plugin being configured. So first of all, you want to query for all the pages you have on Gatsby, so you can use this existing GraphQL query, all sites pages. And here in this example, you can see that I think here in the example, they are trying to simulate like an integration with WordPress. I think this
makes sense.
double
WP, right?
yeah, double P stands for that, WordPress. So they are like gluing together, I think some dynamic contents that comes from WordPress, right? So I think maybe static pages that come from Gatsby with dynamic pages from WordPress.
Yeah, and WordPress has pages and posts, which are two different kinds of pages. We might have things like PLP and PDP and landing pages or whatever, just for context.
Yeah.
You want to gather all pages that are available for.
Yeah, exactly. I think here in the case of FastStore, you will want to query for like CMS pages, right?
Yeah, so probably you CMS pages and the product pages themselves, right?
Yeah, and product pages. I think product pages will but I'm not sure. You come from this
From the
this query.
Gatsby regular.
Yeah, but I'm not totally sure. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to like prepare a case, but maybe it's something that I can bring in the next office hour. And here you can see that once you define this query, you also need to define other configurations. I think the most important one is these resolve pages. Here we are just looping through all the WordPress pages and like reducing in just one list of objects with their URIs and paths, together with the pages from Gatsby. And here is the important part where you probably want to exclude some pages out of the sitemap. There are some pages like I think my account, the checkout that shouldn't really be on a sitemap. So you can use this function here to filter them out. Actually, they do have a specific configuration to filter out a specific
Array
pages.
of paths, right?
Yeah. So you can use these excludes, that you can list an array of paths to exclude from sitemap, and automatically they have this filter pages function that will take this exclude array and just compare it, check if the paths are in this exclude list, and will automatically filter out the pages that you have listed here in this excludes configuration. So you can, I think ideally for filtering these pages, you should probably use this configuration. If you want something more sophisticated, I think then you can override this function, these filter pages functions with the logic that you need. So I think this is in the case of our Gatsby starter, this is the simplest way you can use to build your sitemap. And I was looking for the alternative for our next JS starter, and I was able to find this other plugin for Next.js, which is Next Sitemap. And yeah, basically I haven't read the whole thing, but you should be able to do the same for your Next.js starter. And
the important thing is that these plugins need to have the whole picture of all the pages that you want to be included, and you need to really tweak it so it'll have the right structure, right? The XML structure that you expect it to have. Sometimes you have a multilingual XML for your sitemap that says like this is in English, this is in Portuguese. Sometimes you'll have things like you want the last modified date to show up, so it will index faster, or what frequency it goes, right? So you really need to understand what you were trying to do. It's not just a plug and play solution, right, Felipe?
Yeah, exactly. It can get really complicated if you want it. So you probably should read some documentations about sitemaps. There are ways like to break large sitemaps. Like for instance, this plugin, I believe the Gatsby as well uses this index sitemap format that it's an initial sitemap that links to other more larger sitemaps. So you can have like sitemaps for your brands and categories. So this helps with splitting like multiple large sitemaps into multiple files.
Like grocery shopping or bookstores that have thousands and thousands of SKUs might want to do that.
Exactly. And one important thing to remember when you're using this plugin for Gatsby, they mention here, is that the sitemap will only be generated when you run it in production mode. So if you run yarn develop and you try to access the sitemap URL, it won't work. So you should, when you are testing your sitemap, you should run the Gatsby build, should run in production mode, and then Gatsby serve to run the server. And yeah, I got this initial configuration just as an example, in our Gatsby store, and here is what I got. The first.
Could you zoom in a bit? I think it's a little.
Yeah,
small.
sure. Let me give. Yeah.
There you go.
This is the first level of sitemap index, and then here it links to the next sitemap. Here you can see that he's using this path, VTEX FastStore, but it's because how we are configuring the site URL in our configuration for production. But you can easily access it locally using just the path.
Yep.
And here you can see the XML, the sitemap is generated for the just like with a simple configuration. So you can see here that it's not like expanding the collections paths and also the PDP paths. So it's probably something that you will, and also it's also including some paths that we do not want, like the account, checkout, login. So this is here is where you probably want to tweak the resolve page function. Yeah, to actually fetch this information, so it can generate the entries for the PDPs and the collections, the PLPs. Yeah, maybe something that I can show in the next office hour, but that's the main idea here.
It looks like she was able to figure it out, right? You pointed her in the direction.
I did. Here in my answer, I was able to run the same thing here, and okay. She mentions that she was at first it wasn't working because she was trying to go directly to the, I think, these paths, but maybe she was missing this bit here, this sitemap path.
Oh,
so
yeah.
She was, you see, like she was trying to get this last one. Yeah.
So localhost 9000 dash sitemap.
Sitemap. Yeah. Maybe she was missing this inner path. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting in her question here is that she was kind of mixing two different sitemaps from what I understood. Like she actually wanted to mix the sitemap from IO with the one generated for Gatsby for FastStore. So I don't know exactly what's the use case here, but maybe it's something that she was she's working on a project that's migrating from projects, and she needed this. So
maybe she has like a specific part of her store that's rendering inside store framework.
Exactly. Yeah,
I think add those pages there.
Yeah, and what I understood here is that they are already using the sitemap from IO, but she wanted to include the pages, like new pages that are being served by Gatsby, by FastStore. So what they recommended here was that she installed the IO sitemap app on her store, on her account, and then she created the FastStore sitemap using this Gatsby plugin that we mentioned, and then within the IO sitemap app, there's a way that you can include, extend, and include other sitemaps. And also here on this fourth point is that you should also add a proxy, a redirect on your FastStore to point to this sitemap that's generated in IO. So here's something that you can add. I think Gatsby config or something. You can create this redirect from the path, from the sitemap path that's generated by Gatsby to the IO one. So it's just a basic redirect that you need to
probably
do.
Need the dash sitemap the additional one in the from path.
Yeah, yeah, here as well. And so I think that's the idea. I think that's the main idea. Regarding this sitemap IO sitemap app extension, that's her second question here. This is from the documentation for the sitemap IO app, and then I think I had here. I had here, and here they mention how to extend the sitemap, and basically once you have your sitemap generated by Gatsby, you can go into the GraphQL IDE within admin, and you can edit, run this mutation to save this the sitemap generated by Gatsby into the one that is being extended. So I think that's the idea here, is that she was able to, let me translate this one. She was able to generate the sitemap plugin from Gatsby, but it was not clear to her what was the next, what
I guess she was trying to build the sitemap app instead of using it, right?
Exactly.
It wasn't clear that she could use like an app that was already available.
Yeah. So we do have this this app here that's used on IO, and yeah, I think she just needed to install on her account, and then configure on admin on the admin UI.
Super interesting. Learned how to do a lot of sitemap stuff. Maybe it'll be nice for us to add some of that stuff in our starter, just so it's easier for people to configure it. Or,
it's something that we needed.
But yeah, good point. And sitemaps help with SEO, so that's something we like. All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Felipe, for your
no
details.
Problem. Thank you as well.
Very nice. See you next time.
See you.
Okay, and now moving back to our slides, and I think that's what we had for today. But don't forget, you can always ask those questions in VTEX Community. For this office hours, you need to do so in the special hidden FastStore category that's only available to our closed beta participants. But of course, this event is open to everyone who wants to watch it, even if you're not part of the closed beta. And if you do ask your question and you want us to prioritize, make sure to add the office hours tag to your question, and we'll answer it live. And if you're not able to watch it live, you can always watch this in the future, as many of you will do. Okay, so moving on to the next section, it's demo time. Demo time means we have something to show you running live. It's really exciting, maybe a go live, maybe a proof of concept of what you can do with Gatsby and Next.js, FastStore, and everything in between. But today we don't have any demos for you. We'd love to have one though. So if you have something that you're working on, you're proud of, something you learned, for instance, how did I build my own store sitemap using the Next.js plugin? That's something you could present here in our office hours to our community. If you have anything to present, fill in this form, community.vtex.com/office-hours-beta. We'll get your presentation, we'll analyze it, not too much, but we'll reach out and we'll have you present it here. And you can even, if you have stage fright, we can have your recorded video play here. So you don't have to do it live. You can prepare, record, and present. We already had some really nice demos, but unfortunately not that many recently. Hope to have that change soon. But yeah, I think that's it for today. Thanks a lot, everyone who were with us for these 40 minutes. Next edition will have Miranda back with you. Until then, see you next time.